Hello, my name is Robbie. On here, I am Templar Knight. Every person who believes in God and does not go to church has a story why. But whenever two or more gather in God's name, He is there. So this is church. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Planning for tonight started Monday. Monday night, I was in a hotel room watching people stream on my phone. And I was bouncing back and forth between people. Normally, I can have everyone I want to watch up on screens. But Monday, I couldn't. I was on my phone, and I was watching two of my friends bouncing back and forth. And they were playing a game together. And they won. Just another round of Fortnite for them, but they won. And at the time, I was watching blind. And I heard Jay in the background, "Let's go!" Because that's what Jay does when they win. And I could see him in my mind. I didn't have him on a monitor. I could just see his look. See him doing his big ol' flexing because he just won the game. And I could see that celebration even though I only heard it. And it was so fun for me to be a part of that. To say, this week we are celebrating. It's the 4th of July. There's a lot to celebrate. And so that was what my plan was all about. This Friday, I'm celebrating my birthday. I turned 40 years old on Monday, but it was a busy week. So I'm celebrating it Friday. And my favorite band is coming from 400 miles away to put on a small concert for me. That is celebration. This is a band that I've been there from the beginning. Before it was a band, before it was just one kid in high school recording music on his church's stereo. I've been there. And they're coming out to release or to play some stuff. They've got their 3rd album coming out now. And I've been there from the beginning. I've celebrated with them. I've got all of their albums framed and mounted on my basement wall in my man cave. And they're coming out to celebrate with me. And then I had a curveball thrown my way. And I realized how important it is to celebrate that. Because what kind of hypocrite would I be if I focused on my pain and I was not happy for him? Losing family is tough for us. But how can I be so selfish to sit back and think about what I lost when I know what he has gained? And I can celebrate that. I can be strong through this. In a few seconds. I can be strong through this. And I can celebrate for him. I was looking through the Bible this week because that's where I go. And I wanted to figure out when to celebrate. And a perfect verse hit me. It was Philippians 4, verse 4. And it is short, simple, and to the point. It says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." Again, I say rejoice. Not sometime. Not when things are going good. Always. So when I'm sitting in a hotel room eating microwave Chinese food, watching my friends play games on their computers, I can rejoice and celebrate that. When I'm getting older and everybody wants to get together to rub it in and listen to my favorite band play, I can celebrate that. When I'm bumming because I lost someone dear to me, I can celebrate that. Always. I know it's hard. Right now, more than ever, I know that it is hard to always celebrate, to always be thankful for what God has done and what God is doing. Sometimes we are weak, and it's hard. But we still trying. We still push through. There was another one that hit me. This was Luke chapter 15. I'm not going to read this one because it's a whole chapter, but the first part of it talks about a lost sheep. A shepherd has 100 sheep, and one of them wanders off. You might have heard me tell this story before. But the shepherd goes and he finds that sheep, and he celebrates because he found that one sheep that went missing. The chapter carries on. Now, in this chapter, this is Jesus telling parables, which are stories said to prove a point. So Jesus carries on, and he talks about a woman who loses a coin and spends the next day cleaning her house. She had 10 coins, and she lost one. And she spends the day cleaning, and she finds that one lost coin, and she celebrates it. She is so happy to have the one coin back. Even though she still had the other 9, she gets the one back. Then Jesus goes on to tell the story that most of us will know from this chapter. It's a story of a man who had 2 sons. And one of his sons was in a hurry to grow up. And he says, "Hey Dad, I kind of want to go on living with my life, so any chance I can get like my inheritance now? Because I want to go do things." And the father gives this son half of his stuff. He gives his son his inheritance. And the son takes off, goes to the big city, does big city living, and squanders and wastes everything he had. And he ends up in squalor, just basically a slave and servant feeding animals. The other son stayed home, served his father, stayed with the family, did everything right as he should, waiting for his inheritance when the time came. The other son's off, not doing well. He's feeding animals for someone. And he says, my dad's servants live better than I do right now. I'm going to go back home, apologize to my family, and see if my dad will take me on as a worker. If I can be a servant to my father. Because my dad's servants are better off than me right now. So the son goes home. And when the father sees him coming, he runs to him with open arms. And he takes his son back and embraces him. And he orders that their best, fattest cow gets slaughtered so they can have a feast and they can celebrate his return. And the other son looks over and he's like, Dad, I don't understand. He screwed up. He lost half of our stuff. And now he's returning a beggar. I did everything right, and you want to have a celebration for him? You want a feast for him? And the father looks at him and he says, My son was lost, and now he is found. And they celebrated. Because that's how God feels when people return to him. Not gonna lie, I've been there. And I have felt God's celebration when I returned. He greeted me with open arms. And we celebrate. I probably shouldn't admit stuff like that. To say that I struggled and I walked away. But I did. That's me being honest. And then I came back. And God wasn't mad at me. He didn't make me go and tend the animals and be a servant. He embraced me with open arms because he was so glad to have me back. That was me. That was my brother-in-law. I bet that's a lot of us. And so we celebrate his forgiveness. We celebrate his love. I celebrate that he gives me hope. I saw a video online that caught my attention. And so I put it on here as a, if I'm struggling, I can tell this story. This is a story about a guy named Professor Kurt Richer. He worked at Harvard University back in the 1950s. And he did a test. The test he performed was to deal with mentality and how we view things. Now, he used rats. And what he did was he took, well, if you're ever trying to fact check this, don't, because if you actually look for this story, you will find a million different variations. So I'm just going to go with what I found, right or wrong. The experiment he did, he took rats. He took about 30 of them and he put them in a glass cup. Something that they could not get out of. And he just let them swim. And after about 15 minutes, they realized that they couldn't swim. That's all the longer a rat can swim for. And the rats started drowning. Animal cruelty, I'm sure, not something, obviously we can't condone that. But he got the rest out. And he held them, and he dried them, and he let them rest. And once they'd had some time out of those glass cups, once they had rested, he put them back in to see how long they could swim. Now, the first time swimming, half of these rats died at 15 minutes. That was their breaking point. They could not go any farther. So they gave up and they died. Now, if you were to venture a guess, the group of survivors, the group that he pulled out, how long do you think they made it? Another 15 minutes? Maybe 20? Maybe 10? 40 to 60 hours. Step 1 of this test showed that these rats could swim for 15 minutes before they give up and they die. But this group, they were saved that first time. So when they went back in, they had hope. They had determination. They had a belief that they were going to get pulled out again. "40 to 60 hours they fought because they believed they would get pulled out again. They had a faith, they had a hope that that giant hand would scoop in before it was too late and save them. That's what God can do. That is faith, that is hope, that is a belief. Because sometimes we're those rats in those cups. And we are struggling to get by. We are fighting for survival. And at 15 minutes, a lot of people just give up. But what if you knew God was coming for you? That He was there watching. And that when it got too bad, He's gonna pull you out. At 15 minutes, I may think it's too much. But He hasn't pulled me out of the... He hasn't pulled me out of the fire yet. So I'm gonna keep fighting. At 20 minutes, He hasn't pulled me out of the fire yet. So I will keep fighting. An hour, I will keep fighting. God is right there watching. He will pull me out. I know He will. He's proven it. He already did it once. I know this. What am I capable of? Because I believe that God will help me. What can I accomplish? 40 to 60 hours. That's what I can accomplish. What can I do? What can I endure? What can I get through? Because I have hope. Because I know that hand is there to save me. Not gonna lie. Been in the fire a little bit this week. But I can remain strong. I can push through this. I'm going to close out with one more Bible verse. This is Psalm 30. Those of you who don't know the Psalms, sounds a lot like song, because it is. There are 150 Psalms in the Bible. They're normally around the middle. And they are poems, they're music. They're awesome. If you were ever struggling or having to deal with something, I'm willing to bet there's a psalm for that. But Psalms 30, verse 5. This is from the translation of the Message. I've switched over to that from the NIV version, so it's going to sound a little different, but I'm willing to bet a lot of you have heard this before. And it says, "All you saints, sing your hearts out to God. Thank him to his face." He gets angry once in a while, but across a lifetime, there is only love. The nights of crying your eyes out give way to days of laughter. Now I know that song because that line in a different translation is in a great song that I learned growing up. And what it said in the NIV version is, "Though your sorrow may last through the night, joy comes with the morning." Even in the Bible it says, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So stay strong, endure, and celebrate. Even now, even though I'm in pain and I'm hurting, I celebrate because of all that God has done for me. That he can give me these emotions to feel. I'm grateful. And I know that I'm not a very hype person. I'm just not. Even when I'm doing great, I'm still pretty mellow. But I can celebrate. I can praise and worship God through all the hard times. Because I know that the night will end. And my days will be filled with laughter.